After our first WGN Investigates report on questionable spending by South Suburban politician Tiffany Henyard, it appears she has been forced off the ballot.
Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard, who was appointed to that position tonight, lost her bid for the Democratic Party's nominee.
Tiffany Henyard, known for her over-the-top personality and her self-styled title of supermayor, is fiercely fighting to hold on to her power in Thornton Township and Dalton, Illinois. She is currently at the center of a new scandal, facing serious allegations of election tampering, voter suppression, and multiple lawsuits, all sparked by her exclusion from the Democratic ballot for township supervisor. Tweet. The fallout has been nothing short of explosive, with accusations flying from every direction. Is this the story of a political leader fighting for justice, or a desperate scramble to retain power in the face of mounting opposition and controversy? The situation is still unfolding, and the tension continues to rise.
Minutes. That's all it took for Tiffany Henyard to be out as the Democratic nominee for Thornton Township Supervisor, and she left here.
Napoleon Harris, a state senator and township Democratic committeeman, made a move that sent shockwaves through local politics, sparking unprecedented drama for the first time in over 30 years. Harris decided to hold a caucus instead of a primary election to select candidates for the ballot. This decision was widely seen as a strategic attempt to block Tiffany Henyard's path to the nomination. Both critics and supporters speculated that the caucus was meticulously orchestrated to tip the scales against Henyard, and the outcome seemed to validate these suspicions. Henyard's name was noticeably absent from the Democratic ballot for the upcoming election. The primary reason for her disqualification was her slate's failure to include a certified assessor, a technicality that allowed Harris to dismiss her candidacy outright.
Has two political jobs on two public payrolls, as mayor of South Suburban Dalton, or as she...
Harris, alongside his own slate of candidates, fully capitalized on this mistake, ensuring his faction dominated the caucus and ultimately claimed the coveted Democratic nomination for the April election. This decision marked a major setback for Henyard and ignited heated debates within the community about fairness, procedural integrity, and the motivations behind Harris's choice to opt for a caucus over the traditional primary process. While some viewed this decision as a legitimate use of procedural tools to maintain candidacy standards, others denounced it as a calculated power grab aimed at marginalizing Henyard and derailing her political ambitions.
Trustees, as you mentioned, did not show up. Chris Gonzalez and Carmen Carlisle. Without them, not enough board members were present to make...
The fallout from this move reached beyond the caucus hall, sparking fierce debates among residents and party members about the legitimacy of the process and its implications for local democracy. Amid accusations of political sabotage, Henyard and her supporters fiercely argued that Harris's actions were a clear attempt to undermine her leadership and consolidate control over the political system to serve his own agenda. Harris and his allies, however, defended their actions, claiming that the caucus followed Democratic Party rules and was necessary to restore order and credibility to local governance. As emotions ran high, this contentious episode not only reshaped the electoral landscape, but also deepened the divisions within the community. It left lingering questions about the balance of power and accountability in local politics. Henyard's explosive response to her disqualification marked a dramatic escalation in the ongoing political saga. Tensions peaked when Henyard, visibly furious, stormed out of the caucus meeting, hurling sharp accusations at Harris and his allies. She charged them with orchestrating a coup to sabotage her political career.
The main phone lines and some services that are offered there are for electric and heating for low-income homes. We spoke to Henyard spokespeople today and
This is election rigging at its finest, Tiffany Henyard lashed out, condemning the process as illegal and a blatant effort to undermine her and disenfranchise her supporters. She called the caucus a farce, specifically designed to eliminate her from the race and suppress the will of her constituents. She painted Harris's actions as a calculated, undemocratic power grab that mocked the electoral process. This sentiment resonated deeply with her base, who saw her exclusion from the ballot as a gross injustice. Henyard didn't stop with words.
And then we will start making preparations today. So tomorrow will be the first day. Probably one of our buildings will get shut down. The seniors, they utilize the transportation to go to dialysis, to the doctor, to the store.
She made it clear that she wouldn't accept this alleged slight without a fight. In fiery speeches and interviews, she announced her intention to take legal action against those she accused of violating democratic principles. Her vow to sue became a rallying cry for her supporters, amplifying the controversy and further polarizing the community. For Henyard, this wasn't just a personal insult, it was a fight for political survival. She framed the situation as a crusade against a corrupt system, working to undermine the interests of the people. Her fiery rhetoric and unyielding determination energized her base, even as critics accused her of focusing more on self-preservation than serving the community.
At the top in South Suburban Dalton.
Of course, we are talking about Mayor.
The legal battles she promised threatened to drag the township deeper into turmoil, potentially delaying progress on pressing local issues. Still, Henyard insisted that these fights were essential to uphold fairness and justice. Her speeches fueled the controversy, ensuring that she remained at the heart of the political drama. Some saw her as a fearless leader standing up to a rigged system, while others viewed her as an opportunist, unwilling to accept responsibility for her campaign's mistakes. The division within the community deepened, with public opinion sharply divided between those who believed Henyard was a victim of political manipulation and those who saw her as someone manipulating the system for personal gain.
That is the finding of an investigation of village finances and the spending habits of beleaguered mayor.
Her disqualification and subsequent outburst became central issues in the unfolding election drama. Critics argued that her removal from the ballot was justified, pointing to her failure to meet basic requirements, such as providing a certified assessor on her slate. On the other hand, Henyard's supporters saw the disqualification as a tactical move by Harris to consolidate power and crush quote, unquote, application to his political agenda, end quote. Regardless of the perspective, Henyard's defiance only strengthened her resolve, solidifying her as a champion of democracy. Her determination to fight back resonated with many who felt disenfranchised by the political system.
It's hurting people. They're hurting our residents. I don't care if you don't like me, don't like somebody on this board. It does not matter. What matters is you come here and you take care of your responsibility and take care of the business here.
However, this defiance also deepened the community's divisions. As the election approached, emotions ran high, and it was clear that the primary issue had shifted from the merits of Henyard's candidacy to the broader questions of fairness, integrity, and the nature of political power. Harris's allies maintained that the caucus had been conducted fairly, but to many, the entire episode appeared to be a high-stakes power struggle for control over the future of local governance. As tensions continued to rise, Henyard's legal maneuvers and fiery rhetoric ensured she would not fade into the background. The stakes were clear. Her political future, her reputation, and her standing within the community were all on the line. Whether her legal battles would restore her to the race or further alienate her critics remained uncertain. What was undeniable, however, was that Henyard's explosive reaction to her disqualification had transformed the local election into a high-stakes political drama. As tensions continued to rise, Henyard's legal maneuvers and fiery rhetoric ensured she would not fade into the background. The stakes were clear. Her political future, her reputation, and her standing within the community were all on the line. Whether her legal battles would restore her to the race or further alienate her critics remained uncertain. What was undeniable, however, was that Henyard's explosive reaction to her disqualification had transformed the local election into a high-stakes political drama. In the end, the saga raised crucial questions about fairness, power, and democracy in local politics. It highlighted Henyard's refusal to back down and her unwavering determination to challenge the status quo at any cost. As the situation continues to unfold, it's clear that this undramatic chapter in Henyard's career will remain a defining moment in the political history of the township. Whether it leads to her political resurrection or downfall remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: this battle is far from over, and the outcome will likely shape the future of the community for years to come. "You can't beat me. If they could, they would have gone to the park," Henyard declared. "But now when I bring the people out, you don't let them into the caucus." The event, held at the Homewood Flossmoor Park District Auditorium, quickly descended into chaos, becoming a flashpoint for accusations of ballot suppression and questionable practices, casting a shadow over the entire process. Intended to be a pivotal moment for determining the political future of Thornton Township, it instead became a contentious and polarizing spectacle. Tiffany Henyard, now at the center of this drama, claims that the chaos began well before the event even officially started. She alleges that hundreds of her supporters were forced to wait outside in freezing temperatures, barred from entering, and denied their rightful participation. Many of these supporters, including elderly individuals whom Henyard had personally arranged transportation for via a fleet of buses, were turned away at the doors. These buses, which carried seniors and other community members, reportedly arrived slightly late. Instead of being allowed entry or provided accommodations, they were turned away. Henyard argues that these seniors were effectively excluded from the process, left stranded outside in the cold, while Harris and his slate took control inside. She described the restrictions on entry as draconian, claiming that even those who managed to approach the venue were met with stringent limitations, such as being allowed to enter only 2 at a time. She criticized this as a deliberate attempt to suppress turnout and manipulate the caucus outcome. Inside, reports from Henyard's camp depict a rushed, highly orchestrated meeting that lasted only 7 minutes, during which Napoleon Harris and his allies quickly nominated themselves to the Democratic ticket and adjourned the proceedings. Henyard argues that this brief and tightly controlled session was designed to minimize transparency and prevent any meaningful debate or opposition. The speed and manner of the meeting only fueled her allegations that the process was a sham meant to shut her and her supporters out. She framed the caucus as a travesty of democratic principles, highlighting voter disenfranchisement and backdoor dealings that prioritized power over fairness. The fact that so many were allegedly left standing outside, while crucial decisions were being made inside, became a focal point of her criticism. Henyard framed the event as part of a broader effort to rig the election and silence the voices of her constituents. Critics of Henyard dismissed her allegations as exaggerated and self-serving, suggesting that logistical issues and procedural rules, rather than nefarious intent, were to blame. However, Henyard's account of the caucus, marked by accusations of disenfranchisement, rushed decisions, and exclusionary practices, has resonated with many in her community. This has intensified the public outcry over what transpired that day. The fallout from the chaotic event has deepened the political rift within Thornton Township, leaving voters polarized and raising serious questions about the integrity of the process. For Henyard and her supporters, the caucus represents not just a personal setback, but a broader assault on democratic norms and community representation, when they claim cannot go unchallenged. As Henyard prepares to escalate her fight through legal avenues, her account of the Homewood Flossmoor Park District Auditorium incident continues to resonate as a stark indictment of a system she believes is rigged against her and her supporters. The controversial episode remains at the forefront of Thornton Township's political discourse, with its implications likely to be felt for years to come. They can't do it the right way. Henyard's supporters have unleashed a storm of criticism against Napoleon Harris, accusing him of orchestrating the caucus to advance his own agenda and secure an uncontested path to political dominance. Keith Price, a staunch ally of Henyard, called the event the most flagrant scam he had ever witnessed, alleging that hundreds of eligible participants were unjustly excluded. Price argued that this exclusion was no accident, but a deliberate move to undermine Henyard's supporters and ensure Harris's slate prevailed unchallenged. This sentiment of disenfranchisement was echoed by Henyard's camp, who contended that the process was riddled with irregularities designed to sideline opposing voices. Election lawyer Carrie Kraft Heffer further bolstered these accusations with an analysis of the caucus, uncovering significant procedural violations. Heffer pointed out that organizers failed to collect signed affidavits from participants, a critical safeguard meant to verify voter eligibility and protect the integrity of the election. She also highlighted other irregularities that undermine the transparency and fairness expected in a democratic process. These revelations amplified Henyard's camp's claims that the caucus was deliberately structured to silence dissent and disenfranchise her supporters. Critics argued that by bypassing these safeguards, organizers prioritized consolidating power over ensuring a legitimate outcome. Price's passionate denunciation and Heffer's expert critique only intensified the outrage, with Henyard's backers framing the incident as a dire example of systemic corruption. For many, it exemplifies how entrenched interests can manipulate the rules to their advantage, leaving ordinary citizens disillusioned with the electoral process. Henyard's supporters view this as more than an attack on their candidate. They see it as a broader assault on democratic principles. The frustration, anger, and sense of injustice have ignited a determination to challenge what they view as an egregious subversion of fairness. In their eyes, the caucus symbolizes a broken system in need of reform, further fueling their resolve to hold organizers accountable and push for a more equitable political framework.